The great hall of the Galactic Council was filled with light and noise. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds had gathered for the annual ceremony. It was the day when young diplomats received their first real assignments. For most, it was a proud moment. For Kang Tai-ho, it would be something else entirely. Tai-ho stood at the back of the human group. He was 29 years old, average height, with a calm face that rarely showed emotion. His superiors had never been impressed by him. He did not speak loudly in meetings. He did not fight for attention. He simply did his work and stayed quiet. Admiral Bora stood at the front of the human group. She was tall and strong, with cold eyes that looked down on anyone she considered weak. She had made it clear many times that she thought Tai-ho was a waste of space. A soft man in a hard universe. The ceremony moved slowly. One by one, diplomats from different species stepped forward to receive their assignments. Some got powerful positions on rich worlds. Others got command of important trade routes. The crowd clapped and cheered for each announcement. Then the head of the council, a tall creature with 4 arms and gray skin, raised his hand for silence. "We have a special assignment," he said. His voice echoed through the hall. For the human representative, Kang Tai-ho, Tai-ho felt every eye in the room turn toward him. He walked forward slowly, keeping his face calm. He had learned long ago that showing fear only made things worse. "The council has decided to honor you," the head continued. There was a strange smile on his face. "You will receive a personal aide, someone to help you with your duties." The crowd began to whisper. Tai-ho waited. A door opened at the side of the hall. 2 guards walked out, and between them was a woman. She was not human. Her skin was pale silver, like moonlight on water. Her hair was white and fell past her shoulders. She wore simple gray clothes, the kind given to prisoners. Her hands were bound in front of her with energy chains, but it was her eyes that Tai-ho noticed most. They were large and violet, and they were completely empty. There was no hope in them, no anger, nothing at all. "This is Vila," the council head announced, former queen of the Lunari people. The crowd erupted in laughter. Tai-ho heard the words being whispered all around him. Fallen queen, disgraced ruler, failure. He understood now. This was not an honor. This was a punishment. They were giving the weakest human the most shameful alien. 2 failures, bound together. Admiral Bora was smiling. Lord Kiran, a Lunari noble with dark blue skin and golden robes, was watching from the upper balcony. His expression was one of deep satisfaction. Tai-ho knew about the Lunari. Everyone did. Their empire had fallen 5 years ago, destroyed by civil war and betrayal. Vela had been blamed for everything. She had been stripped of her crown, her power, and her dignity. Since then, she had been passed from one owner to another, always as a symbol of shame. The council had gestured toward Vila. "She is yours now, human. Use her as you see fit." More laughter. More whispers. Tai-ho looked at Vila. She did not look back. She stared at the floor, her shoulders bent, her spirit crushed. Something inside Tai-ho grew very still, very cold, not with anger at Vela, but at everyone else in the room. He stepped forward. The laughter began to fade as people watched him. They expected him to complain, perhaps, or to look embarrassed, or to treat Vela with the same contempt they all felt. Instead, Tai-ho stopped in front of Vela. He looked at her for a long moment. Then, slowly and deliberately, he bowed. It was not a small bow. It was the deep bow of respect that humans gave to honored guests. The kind of bow a person would give to a queen. The hall went completely silent. Vila's eyes moved for the first time. She looked at Tai-ho with confusion. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Tai-ho straightened and turned to face the council. "I accept this assignment with gratitude," he said. His voice was calm and clear. The Lunari are a proud and ancient people. It is an honor to work alongside one of their own. No one laughed now. The council head's smile had faded. Admiral Bora's face had turned red with anger. Lord Kieran gripped the railing of the balcony, his golden eyes narrow. Taiho turned back to Vela. "May I remove these chains?" he asked, gesturing to the energy bonds on her wrists. The council head hesitated. She is your responsibility now. Do as you wish." Taiho found the release point on the chains and pressed it. The energy bonds flickered and disappeared. Vela's hands fell free. She stared at her wrists as if she had forgotten what freedom felt like. "Come," Taiho said gently. "Let me show you to your quarters." He walked toward the exit. After a moment, Vela followed. She moved like a ghost, silent and uncertain. The crowd parted to let them through. No one spoke. The ceremony continued behind them, but Taiho did not look back. They walked through the long corridors of the station in silence. Vela stayed 3 steps behind him, as she had been trained to do with her previous owners. When they reached Taiho's section, he stopped at a door. It was not the small servant's room that had been assigned to Vela. It was a proper guest room, with a window that looked out at the stars. "This is for you," Taiho said. Vela looked at the room, then at him. Her eyes were still empty, but now there was something else there too. Suspicion. "What do you want from me?" she asked. Her voice was soft and rough, like she had not used it in a long time. "Nothing," Taiho said. "Everyone wants something." Taiho considered this. "Then I want you to rest. You look tired." Vela did not move. She stood in the doorway, studying him as if he were a puzzle she could not solve. "I will not share your bed," she said flatly, "if that is what you expect." Taiho's expression did not change. "I expect nothing. The room is yours. The door has a lock. Use it if you wish." He turned and walked to his own quarters, which were just across the hall. At his door, he paused. "I meant what I said in the hall," he told her. "It is an honor to work with you, Vela." He went inside and closed his door. Vela stood alone in the corridor for a long time. She looked at the guest room. She looked at Taiho's door. Then, slowly, she stepped into the room and closed the door behind her. She did not lock it. That night, Taiho lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling. He knew what he had done. He had made enemies of the council, of Admiral Bora, of Lord Kieran. He had tied his fate to a fallen queen that everyone in the galaxy despised. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Viola's face. The emptiness in her eyes. The way her shoulders had bent under the weight of years of shame. He had seen that look before. In refugees. In prisoners. In anyone the universe had decided was worthless. Taiho had never been a fighter. He had never been loud or strong or impressive. But he had one quality that no one seemed to notice. He was stubborn. And he had decided, in that moment in the Great Hall, that Vela deserved better. The galaxy might see her as a symbol of failure. But Taiho saw something else. He saw a queen. And he would make sure everyone else saw it too. The days passed slowly on the station. Taiho went about his work as he always did. He attended meetings where no one listened to him. He wrote reports that no one read. He made suggestions that were ignored. Viola stayed in her room most of the time. She came out only to eat, and even then she took her food and disappeared again. She spoke only when necessary, and her answers were short and cold. Taiho did not push her. He greeted her each morning. He wished her good night each evening. He asked if she needed anything. She always said no, but he noticed small things. The way she stood near the window, watching the stars. The way her hands trembled sometimes when she thought no one was looking. The way she flinched at loud noises. She was not just sad. Taiho realized. She was broken. One night, Taiho stayed up late reading. He had found old files about the Lunari in the station's database. Most of it was propaganda, stories that painted Vila as a cruel and foolish queen who had led her people to ruin. But Taiho was patient. He dug deeper. He found older records from before the Civil War, trade agreements, peace treaties, cultural exchanges. The picture that emerged was very different from what the galaxy believed. Vela had been a good queen, a peaceful queen. She had tried to keep her people out of war. She had made alliances with smaller species, protected them from larger empires. She had been loved by her people. So what had happened? Taiho kept reading. He found reports about Lord Kiran. Before the Civil War, Kiran had been a minor noble, hungry for power. He had made deals with outside forces, trading Lunari secrets for influence. When Vila had discovered his betrayal and tried to stop him, he had moved first. The Civil War had not been Vila's failure. It had been Kiran's weapon. He had used it to destroy her, to take everything she had, and to rise to power on the ashes of her reputation. Taiho closed the files. His chest felt tight with anger. Not the hot, loud anger that made people shout and fight. A cold anger. A quiet one. The next morning, Vala found Taiho in the common room, surrounded by data tablets. He was studying something, his brow furrowed in concentration. She almost walked past. But curiosity made her stop. "What are you doing?" she asked. Taiho looked up. "Learning Lunari," he said. "Your language. It is very beautiful, but very difficult." Vila stared at him. "Why?" "Because you are Lunari," Taiho said simply. "And I want to understand you." Vila did not know how to respond. No one had ever tried to learn her language. Not her previous owners. Not the council members who judged her. Not anyone. Taiho looked back at his tablet and tried to pronounce a word. It came out wrong, twisted in a way that made the meaning completely different. "You just called yourself a root vegetable," Vala said. Taiho blinked. Then, for the first time since she had known him, he smiled. It was a small smile, but a real one. "That explains the strange looks," he said. Vala felt something move in her chest. Something she had forgotten she could feel. She sat down across from him. "The tone rises at the end," she said, showing him the correct way to speak the word. Like a question. Taiho tried again. This time, it was better. They spent an hour together, going through simple words and phrases. Vila found herself explaining things she had not thought about in years. The way her language reflected their view of the universe. The way certain words had no translation in other tongues. When they finished, Taiho thanked her and returned to his work. That night, Vila lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about Taiho, about his patience, about his kindness, about the way he treated her like a person instead of a symbol. She did not trust him. She could not. Everyone who had ever been kind to her had wanted something in the end. But she was curious. Over the next few weeks, she began to observe him more closely. She watched him in meetings, where other species dismissed his ideas without listening. She watched him receive insults from Admiral Bora without fighting back. She watched him help a young aide from a small planet when everyone else ignored her. One evening, she asked him the question that had been burning in her mind. "Why do you not fight back?" Taiho looked up from his meal. "Fight back against what?" "Everything." Vala gestured vaguely. "They mock you. They ignore you. They treat you like you are nothing. Why do you accept it?" Taiho considered the question carefully. He always did that. Vila had noticed. He never answered quickly. "Do you know what humans were like before we joined the galaxy?" He asked. Vila shook her head. "We were fighters," Taiho said. "We spent thousands of years fighting each other. Wars over land. Wars over ideas. Wars over nothing at all. We were very good at fighting. He set down his food. When we met other species, many humans wanted to keep fighting. They said it was the only way to survive. That the galaxy only respected strength. They were not wrong, Vela said quietly. No, Taiho agreed. But they were not completely right either. Fighting makes you strong for a moment. Understanding makes you strong forever. He looked at her with those calm, steady eyes. I do not fight back because anger is easy. Anyone can be angry. Anyone can shout and threaten and attack. But understanding someone, truly seeing them, that is hard. That takes patience. That takes strength. Vela was silent for a long moment. And what do you understand about me? That you were betrayed, Taiho said softly. That you carry a weight that was never yours to carry. That you blame yourself for things that were not your fault. Vela's throat tightened. She wanted to deny it. She wanted to push him away, to rebuild the walls around her heart. But she was so tired of those walls. They took everything from me, she whispered. My crown, my people, my name. I am nothing now. Taiho shook his head. You are not nothing. You are Vela, and that is enough. Tears fell from Vela's eyes. She could not remember the last time she had cried. Years ago, perhaps. Before she had learned to make herself empty. Taiho did not try to comfort her with words. He did not tell her everything would be okay. He simply sat with her, quiet and present. While she wept out when the tears finally stopped, Vela felt different, lighter, as if something dark and heavy had been washed away. I do not know why you are kind to me, she said. I have nothing to offer you. Taiho smiled. You corrected my terrible pronunciation. That is a gift. Vela laughed. It was a broken sound, rough and unused, but it was real. And in that moment, something changed between them. Not trust, not yet, but the beginning of something that could become trust. The first small step on a very long road. Taiho went back to his meal. Vela stayed at the table, watching him. For the first time in 5 years, she did not feel completely alone. And for the first time in 5 years, she allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. She was still broken. She was still lost. She was still carrying the weight of a fallen crown, but now she had someone who saw her, really saw her. And that made all the difference. 3 months passed, and Taiho received news that made his heart sink. He had been assigned to lead a trade negotiation. The Verdani, a species of tall plant-like beings, controlled the fuel sources that Earth desperately needed. Relations between humans and Verdani had always been difficult. The Verdani were slow, patient, and deeply suspicious of younger species. Admiral Bora had arranged this assignment. Taiho was certain of it. She expected him to fail. Everyone expected him to fail. The negotiation was in 2 days. That evening, Vela found Taiho in the common room, surrounded by data tablets and reports. His face was tight with worry. What is wrong? She asked. Taiho explained the situation. The Verdani, the fuel, the impossible deadline. Vela listened carefully. When he finished, she sat down across from him. I know the Verdani, she said. Taiho looked up. You do? When I was queen, I negotiated with them many times. They supplied energy crystals to my people for generations. A shadow crossed her face. Before everything fell apart, she leaned forward. The Verdani are not difficult. They are simply different. Other species try to negotiate with them the way they negotiate with everyone else. Fast, aggressive, pushy. This is exactly wrong. Taiho set down his tablet. Tell me more. They talked through the night. Vala explained Verdani culture, their values, their way of thinking. They moved slowly because they lived for thousands of years. They valued patience above all else. They hated being rushed. More importantly, they valued listeners. Most species came to them with demands and speeches. The Verdani respected those who asked questions and truly heard the answers. Do not try to impress them, Vila said. Do not boast about human achievements. Simply be present. Be humble. Let them lead the conversation. Taiho nodded, taking notes. What else? They communicate with scent as well as sound. Strong emotions produce strong smells. They will know if you are nervous or angry. Vila paused. But genuine respect also has a scent. If you truly honor them, they will sense it. By morning, Taiho had a plan. It was unlike any negotiation strategy he had learned in training. It was slow. It was gentle. It was almost passive. It was perfect for the Verdani. The day of the negotiation arrived. The meeting was held in a special chamber filled with plants and soft light. 3 Verdani elders sat on one side of the table. Taiho sat alone on the other. Admiral Bora watched from an observation room above, waiting for him to fail. Taiho took a breath. He thought of everything Vila had taught him. Then he began. He did not start with demands or offers. Instead, he asked a question. I have heard that the Verdani were the first species to master crystal energy, he said softly. I would be honored to learn how your people discovered this gift. The Verdani elders looked at each other. Most species never asked about their history. Most species only cared about the fuel. The eldest Verdani, whose bark-like skin was gray with age, leaned forward. And he began to speak. For 2 hours, Taiho listened. He asked questions. He expressed wonder at their achievements. He admitted how young and inexperienced humans were compared to the Verdani's ancient wisdom. He did not mention the fuel at all. Finally, the eldest Verdani raised a branch-like hand. You are different, human. Others come to us with hungry eyes and loud voices. You come with open ears and a quiet heart. Taiho bowed his head. I have learned that true strength comes from understanding, not demanding. The Verdani elders spoke among themselves in their rustling language. Then the eldest turned back to Taiho. We will supply your people with fuel, he said. At fair rates, for fair terms. Not because you asked, but because you listened. Taiho's heart leaped, but he kept his face calm. You honor us deeply. When he left the chamber, Admiral Bora was waiting. Her face was red with anger and confusion. What did you do in there? She demanded. I watched the whole thing. You barely said anything. You did not negotiate at all. Taiho looked at her calmly. I listened. That was the negotiation. He walked past her without another word. Word of Taiho's success spread quickly. The Verdani deal was important, and everyone had expected it to fail. Now people began to whisper. Who was this quiet human? How had he succeeded where others had failed? But not everyone was pleased. Lord Kiran heard about the negotiation. He learned that Taiho had spent the night before with Vela, preparing. His golden eyes narrowed. A few days later, Admiral Bora called a meeting. Several human officials attended, along with representatives from other species. I want to address a concern, Bora said, her voice sharp. Our representative Kang Taiho has been receiving advice from his aide, the former Lunari Queen. She said the last words like they were poison. This is inappropriate, Bora continued. We cannot allow a disgraced alien to influence human diplomacy. She may be manipulating him for her own purposes. Taiho stood. Vila is not manipulating me. She is helping me. She is using you, Bora snapped. Can you not see it? She is a fallen queen, desperate to regain power. She has attached herself to you because you are weak and gullible. The room was silent. Everyone watched Taiho, waiting for his response. He did not raise his voice. He did not show anger. He simply spoke clearly. "Vela is my partner," he said. "She has wisdom and experience that I lack. Our success with the Verdani came from her guidance. I'm not ashamed to admit that." Bora's face twisted. "Partner? She is an aide, a servant, a symbol of failure." "She is whatever I say she is," Taiho replied. "And I say she is my partner." He looked around the room. "I do not care what title she once held or what title she has lost. I care about her abilities, her knowledge, her insight. These things have value, and I will not pretend otherwise to make others comfortable." He turned and walked out of the meeting. That night, Vela found Taiho on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "I heard what you said," she told him. "In the meeting." Taiho nodded. "I meant every word." Vela stood beside him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You called me your partner," she said finally. "No one has called me that since before." "You are my partner," Taiho said. "If you want to be." Vela felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them away. "I thought I was dead inside," she whispered. "I thought they had taken everything from me. My crown, my people, my purpose. I thought there was nothing left." She looked at Taiho. "But you see something in me. Something I forgot was there." Taiho turned to face her. "I see a queen," he said simply. "Crowns can be taken. Thrones can be lost. But what makes someone a queen is inside them. And that can never be taken away." Vela smiled. It was a small smile, fragile and new. But it was real. "Then I will be your partner," she said. "And together, we will show them all." Taiho smiled back. Together. Above them, in his private chambers, Lord Kiran watched a recording of Taiho's speech at the meeting. His beautiful face was cold with fury. This human was becoming a problem. And Vela was becoming dangerous again. He could not allow that. He began to plan. 6 months had passed since Taiho had received Vela as his aide. In that time, everything had changed. Taiho was no longer ignored. His success with the Verdani had opened doors. Other species began to request him for negotiations. They had heard about the quiet human who listened instead of demanded. They were curious, and Vela was transforming. The hollow look was gone from her eyes. Her silver skin seemed brighter, almost luminous again. She stood taller. She spoke with more confidence. The broken queen was slowly putting herself back together. Together, they had resolved 3 more disputes. Each time, Vela provided the knowledge and Taiho provided the patience. They made an excellent team, but their success brought attention. Not all of it was good. One morning, Taiho submitted a formal request to the Galactic Council. He asked that Vela be recognized as his co-diplomat, with equal rank and authority. The response was immediate and brutal. The council rejected the request. Admiral Bora called it insulting. Several human officials demanded that Taiho be removed from his position. But Taiho had been preparing for this. Over the past months, he had quietly built relationships. He had helped small species that larger empires ignored. He had listened to their problems, offered advice, made connections. He had asked for nothing in return. Now, those species began to speak up. The Verdani elders sent a message praising Taiho and his wise partner. A group of smaller worlds issued a joint statement supporting Vela's promotion. Even some council members, who had grown tired of Lord Kiran's political games, expressed interest. Taiho's request was not approved, but it was not dismissed either. The council agreed to consider it further. This was a small victory, but it was a start. Ambassador Dohyun visited Taiho's quarters one evening. Dohyun was an older man with gray hair and a tired face. He had been a diplomat for 30 years. When Taiho first arrived, Do-hyun had ignored him like everyone else. Now he looked at Taiho with different eyes. "I underestimated you," Do-hyun admitted. "We all did." Taiho offered him a seat. "I do not blame you. I did not give you much reason to notice me." Do-hyun sat down heavily. "What you are doing with Vela is either very brave or very stupid. Possibly both." "Probably both," Taiho agreed. Do-hyun smiled slightly. "Lord Kieran will not let this continue. You know that. He has spent 5 years destroying Vela. Her shame is the foundation of his power. If she rises again, he falls." "I know. Then what is your plan?" Taiho was quiet for a moment. "I do not have one. Not yet. I am simply doing what is right and hoping the rest will follow." Do-hyun shook his head. "That is a terrible strategy. It is the only one I have." The older diplomat studied him for a long moment. Then he sighed. "Very well. I cannot promise anything, but I will help where I can." Quietly. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. "Your father was a diplomat, was he not? Before he died?" Taiho nodded. "He served on the outer colonies. He believed that peace was possible with any species, if you tried hard enough. And look where that belief got him," Do-hyun said softly. "It got him killed," Taiho replied. "I know, but he died believing in something. That matters." Do-hyun left without another word. But the next day, Taiho noticed that certain doors opened more easily. Certain meetings were arranged more quickly. Do-hyun was keeping his word. Meanwhile, Lord Kieran was not idle. He began spreading rumors. Vela was manipulating the naive human. She was secretly contacting Lunari rebels. She was planning to rebuild her empire using human resources. Taiho was either a fool or a traitor, possibly both. The rumors spread like poison. Some species began to avoid Taiho. Some humans demanded an investigation. Admiral Bora grew louder in her criticism, but something unexpected happened. The small species that Taiho had helped began to push back. They defended him. They questioned Kieran's motives. They asked why a disgraced queen was still considered so dangerous. 5 years after losing everything, Kieran was forced to be more careful. He could not destroy Taiho openly. Not yet. A ship arrived at the station carrying a young woman with sharp eyes and oil-stained hands. Her name was Yuna, and she was Taiho's younger sister. "You are in trouble," she said, the moment she saw him. "Real trouble this time." Taiho hugged her. "I missed you too." Yuna was an engineer on a transport ship. She was practical, direct, and had no patience for politics. She had come as soon as she heard the rumors. "Everyone is talking about you and the alien queen," she said. "Half of them think you are a hero. The other half think you are insane. What do you think?" Taiho asked. "I think I need to meet this queen before I decide." Taiho introduced Yuna to Vela that evening. The two women studied each other carefully. "So you are the reason my brother is ruining his career," Yuna said. Vela did not flinch. "Your brother is making his own choices. I have only offered advice." "Good advice?" "Yes." Yuna tilted her head. "Prove it." They talked for hours. Vela explained her strategies, her reasoning, her vision for what she and Taiho could accomplish. Yuna asked sharp questions, challenged assumptions, looked for weaknesses. By the end of the night, Yuna was nodding slowly. "All right," she said. "I believe you." Vela blinked. "Just like that?" "My brother is many things," Yuna said, "but he is not stupid. If he trusts you, there must be a reason." She paused. "And I can see it. You are not using him. You care about him." Vela looked away. "He saved me when I had nothing left. He saw me as a person, not a symbol. How could I not care about him?" Yuna smiled. It was the first real smile Vela had seen from her. "Good," Una said. "Then I am on your side. Both of you." She stayed on the station for a week, helping where she could. She fixed broken systems in Taiho's quarters. She gathered information about Kieran's movements. She even confronted Admiral Bora once loudly and publicly about her treatment of Taiho. When she left, she hugged Taiho tightly. "Be careful," she said. "Kieran will not stop. He cannot stop. If you win, he loses everything. I know. And Taiho?" Una looked at him with serious eyes. "That queen of yours? She is worth fighting for. I can see why you chose her." Taiho smiled. "I did not choose her. They gave her to me as an insult. But you chose to treat her like a queen. That is what matters." Una kissed his cheek. "I am proud of you, brother." She boarded her ship and was gone. That night, Taiho stood on the observation deck with Vela. The stars stretched out before them. "Infinite and cold. Your sister is fierce," Vela said. "She has always been the strong one," Taiho agreed. "I was the quiet child, the one who read books and avoided fights." Vela looked at him. "You are strong in a different way. A harder way." "What do you mean?" "Fighting is easy," Vela said softly. "It requires only anger. But what you do, standing firm without fighting, believing in others when no one else does, that requires something deeper, something rare." She took his hand. Her silver fingers were cool against his skin. "I was a queen once," she said. "I commanded armies. I ruled planets. But I never had what you have. The strength to be kind in a cruel universe." Taiho squeezed her hand gently. "We have it together now." Above them, in his chambers, Lord Kieran watched the recording from his spy cameras. He saw them holding hands. He saw the way Vela looked at Taiho. His golden eyes burned with cold fury. This had gone far enough. It was time to end it. All of it. The attack came without warning. Taiho was awakened by loud banging on his door. When he opened it, he found a squad of security officers in full armor, weapons drawn. "Kang Taiho," the lead officer said. "You are under house arrest. Do not resist." Before Taiho could respond, he heard a scream from across the hall. More officers were dragging Vela out of her room. Her hands were already bound in energy chains, just like the day Taiho had first seen her. "What is happening?" Taiho demanded. "The Lunari has been charged with conspiracy against the Galactic Council," the officer said. "Evidence has been found linking her to rebel forces. She is to be detained and tried." Taiho's blood went cold. "That is a lie. Vela has done nothing. That will be determined at her tribunal." The officer gestured to his men. "And you are confined to quarters for obstructing justice. Any attempt to contact the prisoner or interfere with the investigation will result in harsher charges." They took Vela away. Her eyes met Taiho's as they led her down the corridor. In them, he saw fear, but also something else. Resignation. She had expected this. She had been waiting for the blow to fall. Taiho was pushed back into his quarters, and the door was locked from outside. For 3 days, Taiho was trapped. He could not leave. He could not contact anyone. Guards watched his door constantly, but Taiho was not helpless. On the second day, Una's voice crackled through a hidden communication device she had left him before she departed. "Brother, can you hear me?" "Yes." Taiho kept his voice low. "What is happening out there?" "Kieran has accused Vela of plotting rebellion. He says he has intercepted messages between her and Lunari separatist groups. The council is taking it seriously. The messages are fake." "Of course they are. But they look real. Kieran has been planning this for a long time." There was static on the line. "The tribunal is in 5 days. If Vela is found guilty, she will be executed. Executed. The word hit Taiho like a physical blow. I cannot let that happen. I know. That is why I am calling. Yuna's voice was tense. Ambassador Do-young contacted me. He believes Karen fabricated the evidence. He's trying to find proof, but it is difficult. Kieran has covered his tracks well. What can I do from here? Nothing yet. But we are working on getting you released. Hold on, brother. We are coming. The line went dead. Taiho paced his small quarters like a caged animal. He thought about Vila, alone in a cell somewhere on the station. He thought about all the times they had talked, laughed, planned together. He thought about the way her eyes had slowly come back to life over the past months. And he thought about Kieran, who would destroy it all just to protect his own power. On the fourth day, a guard opened Taiho's door. Ambassador Do-young stood outside. You have 15 minutes, the guard said. Make it quick. Do-young entered and the door closed behind him. We do not have much time, Do-young said quietly. I have found something. Old records from the Lunari Civil War. Communications between Kieran and outside forces. Proof that he orchestrated the war for his own benefit. Taiho felt hope surge in his chest. Then we can expose him. It is not that simple. Do-young's face was grim. Kieran has powerful eyes on the council. Even with this evidence, they may choose to ignore it. They have too much invested in Vila being guilty. Then what do? We present the evidence at the tribunal, publicly, where everyone can see. If the truth comes out in front of the whole galaxy, the council cannot hide it. Taiho nodded slowly. But I am under arrest. I cannot attend the tribunal. Leave that to me. Do-young handed him a data chip. This contains everything we have found. Guard it with your life. He moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing. Vela sent a message through back channels. She wanted me to tell you something. Taiho's heart clenched. What? She said to let her go. That you have already given her more than she deserves. That your career and your future should not burn because of her. Taiho was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head. Tell her no. Do-young smiled sadly. I expected that answer. Good luck, Taiho. The next day, the door to Taiho's quarters opened again. This time, there were no guards. Yuna stood in the doorway, grinning. How did you get me released? Taiho asked. I called in favors. Lied a little. Threatened to cause a diplomatic incident. She shrugged. The usual. They moved quickly through the station. The tribunal was already beginning. They had to hurry. The tribunal chamber was packed. Representatives from every major species filled the seats. Lord Kieran sat at the front, his golden robe shimmering, his face calm and confident. And in the center of the room, bound in energy chains, stood Vila. She looked worse than Taiho had ever seen her. Her silver skin was dull and gray. Her eyes were red from crying. She looked defeated. Then she saw Taiho entering the chamber. Her eyes widened. Kieran was speaking, presenting his fabricated evidence. Holographic images of messages, communication logs, supposed plans for rebellion. The council members listened, their faces grave. And so, Kieran concluded, I asked the council to find this criminal guilty and sentence her to death. She has betrayed the peace of our galaxy and must pay the ultimate price. The council head nodded. Does anyone speak in defense of the accused? Silence. No one moved. Taiho raised his hand. Every eye in the room turned to him. Kieran's confident expression flickered. I wish to speak, Taiho said. You? The council head frowned. You are her former handler. You have no standing here. Then I claim standing as a citizen of the Galactic Union who has evidence relevant to this case. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kieran leaned forward, his eyes dangerous. What evidence? The council head asked. Taeho walked forward slowly, holding the data chip Do-hyun had given him. He felt the weight of every eye in the room. Evidence that Lord Kirin is a liar, a traitor, and the true architect of Lunari's destruction. The chamber erupted in noise. Kirin rose to his feet, shouting for order. Guards moved toward Taeho, but Taeho did not stop. He kept walking toward the center of the room, toward Vela. When he reached her, he took her bound hands in his own. "I am here," he said softly, "just for her. And I am not leaving." Vela's eyes filled with tears. "You should have let me go." Taeho shook his head. "They gave you to me as a punishment. They wanted me to see you as a burden, a shame, a symbol of failure." He turned to face the council, his voice rising. "But I see a queen, and I will fight for her until my last breath." The crowd went silent. Kirin's face twisted with rage, and Vela, for the first time in 5 years, stood tall. Whatever happened next, she was not facing it alone. The tribunal chamber was chaos. Lord Kirin was shouting for order. Council members were arguing among themselves. Guards surrounded Taeho, unsure whether to arrest him or let him speak. Finally, the council head raised all 4 of his arms and bellowed for silence. "Enough!" His voice echoed off the walls. "There will be order in this chamber." The noise died down slowly. Kirin settled back into his seat, his golden eyes fixed on Taeho with pure hatred. "You have made a serious accusation," the council head said to Taeho. "Do you understand the consequences if you are lying?" "I understand," Taeho replied calmly. "I am not lying. Then present your evidence." Taeho activated the data chip. Holographic displays flickered to life around the chamber. Documents, communications, financial records. The gathered representatives leaned forward, watching. 5 years ago, Taeho began. The Lunari Empire fell. The official story is that Queen Vela led her people into a disastrous civil war through incompetence and pride. That story is a lie. He gestured to the first set of documents. These are communications between Lord Kirin and the Mariki Syndicate, a criminal organization that operates beyond council law. In these messages, Kirin promises them access to Lunari trade routes and resources in exchange for weapons and fighters. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kirin's face remained still, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair. "The civil war was not caused by Vela's failures," Taeho continued. "It was engineered by Kirin. He supplied rebels with weapons. He spread lies about the queen. He turned her own advisors against her." More documents appeared. Meeting records, witness testimonies, financial transfers. When Vela discovered the conspiracy and tried to stop it, Kirin moved faster. He accused her of the very crimes he had committed. The council, fed false information by Kirin and his allies, believed him. Vela was removed from power and sentenced to eternal shame. Taeho turned to face Kirin directly. "And you, Lord Kirin, rose from a minor noble to one of the most powerful figures in the Lunari remnant, built on the ashes of a queen you destroyed." The chamber was dead silent. Everyone was staring at Kirin. The Lunari Lord rose slowly from his seat. His composure had returned, smooth as glass. "This is a desperate trick," he said. "These documents are fabrications. The human has been manipulated by the fallen queen. She has poisoned his mind against me." He spread his hands. "Consider the source. A naive human and a disgraced criminal. They have every reason to lie. I have served this council faithfully for years. My record speaks for itself." Several council members nodded. Taeho felt his heart sink. Kirin was too skilled at this game. He had played it for decades. Then another voice spoke. "Then perhaps my record will speak as well." Everyone turned. Ambassador Do Yoon had risen from the human delegation. In his hands was another data chip. "I have served this council for 30 years, Do Yoon said. "I have no love for the fallen queen. I gain nothing from defending her. But I have spent the past week investigating these claims, and I have found additional evidence." He activated the chip. More documents appeared. Internal Lunari records that Kieran had thought destroyed. Communications that proved his guilt beyond any doubt. These were recovered from the personal archives of 3 Lunari nobles who were executed after the Civil War, Do Yoon said. They were murdered on Kieran's orders because they knew the truth. Their testimony was preserved in secret, hoping that someday someone would find it. The chamber erupted again. This time, the voices were angry, accusatory, pointed at Kieran. The council had struggled to restore order. "Lord Kieran," he said finally, "do you have any response to these accusations?" Kieran's mask slipped. For just a moment, Taiho saw the monster beneath. The cold, calculating predator who had destroyed an empire for power. But Kieran was not finished. He drew himself up, his voice cutting through the noise. "Even if these accusations are true," he said, "it changes nothing about the queen. She was weak. She failed to stop me. A true ruler would have seen the conspiracy and crushed it. Her downfall was her own fault." He pointed at Vela. "She is still a failure. She is still a symbol of weakness. Elevating her again would send a message to every power in the galaxy that failure has no consequences. That incompetence is rewarded." The crowd shifted. Some members were nodding. Kieran's words had found their mark. Taiho stepped forward. "May I speak?" The council head hesitated, then nodded. Taiho turned to face the entire assembly. He was not a great speaker. He did not have Kieran's silver tongue or commanding presence. He was just a quiet human who had learned to listen, but he had also learned when to speak. "You gave Vela to me as a punishment," he said. "You wanted to bury 2 failures together. You thought she was worthless. You thought I was worthless." He paused, letting the words settle. "But you forgot something. Humans do not measure worth by what someone has lost. We measure it by what they choose to become." He gestured to the evidence still floating in the air. Vela lost her crown because she was betrayed. Because she trusted people who did not deserve her trust. Because she tried to do the right thing and was punished for it. His voice grew stronger. "Lord Kieran would have you believe that makes her weak. But I ask you, what strength does it take to survive 5 years of shame? To endure mockery and hatred from an entire galaxy? To keep going when everyone has given up on you?" He turned to Viola. Her eyes were shining with tears, but she stood straight and proud. "I have watched Vela rebuild herself from nothing. I have seen her wisdom, her courage, her grace. She has every reason to hate this galaxy, to become bitter and cruel. Instead, she chose to help me, to teach me, to believe in something again." He faced the council. "That is not weakness. That is strength. The kind of strength this galaxy desperately needs." The chamber was silent. Taiho could see faces changing, doubt creeping in, minds beginning to shift. He delivered his final blow. "You have heard the evidence against Lord Kieran. You have heard his defense. Now I ask you to make a choice. You can continue to punish the innocent and reward the guilty. You can let fear and pride guide your decisions." He took a deep breath. "Or you can show the galaxy that the truth matters, that justice matters, that a queen who was wronged can be made right again." He stepped back and waited. The council deliberated for 3 hours. Taiho sat beside Vela, still in her chains, holding her hand. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. Finally, the council head returned. "Lord Kieran," he announced, "you have been found guilty of conspiracy, treason, and the wrongful destruction of the Lunari Empire. You will be stripped of all titles and authority and remanded to the custody of Lunari people for judgment." Guards seized Kieran. For the first time, his mask fell completely. He screamed, cursed, threatened. It made no difference. They dragged him away. The council had turned to Vila. "And Vila of the Lunari, you have been found innocent of all charges. The council extends its formal apology for the injustice you have suffered." The chains around her wrists flickered and disappeared. Vila looked at her hands. Free. After 5 years. She was free. She turned to Taiho. Tears were streaming down her silver cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. Taiho smiled. "You saved yourself. I just helped people see what was always there." The crowd began to applaud. Slowly at first, then louder. Species that had ignored Vela for years now rose to their feet. The sound filled the chamber like thunder, and in the center of it all, a human and a queen stood side by side, exactly where they belonged. The weeks after the tribunal were filled with change. Lord Kieran was sent back to the Lunari remnant to face judgment for his crimes. The nobles who had helped him fell one by one, their corruption exposed. The empire he had built on lies collapsed like a house of cards. The Galactic Council conducted a formal investigation into how Vela had been treated. Several members who had enabled her downfall were censured. New rules were proposed to prevent such injustice from happening again, and Vela herself became something unexpected. A symbol, but not of shame anymore. Of survival. Of resilience. Of hope. Species from across the galaxy reached out to her. Some apologized for how they had treated her. Others asked for her advice. A few offered to help rebuild what remained of the Lunari people. Vila accepted some offers and declined others. She was careful now. She had learned the cost of trusting too easily, but she was no longer alone in making these decisions. One morning, a formal message arrived from the Lunari Council of Elders. They had gathered the surviving nobles and citizens. They had voted unanimously. They wanted Vila to return as their queen. Vila read the message in Taiho's quarters. Her hands were trembling. "They want me back," she said softly. "After everything. After all these years." Taiho sat across from her, watching her face. "What do you want?" Vila was silent for a long moment. "I used to dream about this," she admitted. "In the darkest nights, when I was alone and broken, I would imagine returning to my throne, taking back everything that was stolen from me." She set the message down. "But I am not the same person I was. That queen died 5 years ago. I am something different now." "Something worse?" "No." Vila looked at him. "Something better. I think. I hope." She stood and walked to the window. The stars stretched out before her, endless and bright. "When I was queen, I ruled alone. I made decisions alone. I carried everything alone. I felt there was strength." She turned back to Taiho. "You showed me a different kind of strength. The strength of standing with someone. The strength of trust." Taiho rose and walked to her side. "What are you saying?" Vela took a deep breath. "The Lunari need a leader, but I do not want to go back to ruling alone. I want to stay here. With you." Taiho felt warmth spread through his chest. The galaxy would be shocked. A queen giving up her throne for a human diplomat. Let them be shocked. Vila smiled. "They have been wrong about me before. They will be wrong again." She took his hand. "Besides, I am not giving up anything. I am choosing something better." Taiho squeezed her fingers gently. "Then we will build something new, together." The response to Vila's decision was exactly what Taiho had predicted. Shocked, confused. Some called her foolish. Others called her brave. But the Lunari people understood. Their queen had suffered enough. She had earned the right to choose her own path. They elected a new leader from among the survivors. Vila provided guidance when asked. She became an advisor instead of a ruler. It suited her better than she had expected. Meanwhile, Taiho received his own news. The human delegation had decided to promote him to senior ambassador. It was an unprecedented rise for someone who had been considered a failure. Just 1 year ago, Admiral Bora delivered the news personally. Her face was stiff, her pride wounded. But she had no choice. Taiho's success was too visible to ignore. "Congratulations," she said, the word sounding like it hurt to speak. Taiho nodded politely. "Thank you, Admiral." Bora hesitated at the door. Then, grudgingly, she added, "What you did at the tribunal." Speaking for her like that. It took courage. Taiho raised an eyebrow. "Was that a compliment?" "Do not expect another one." Bora left without looking back. Ambassador Doyon laughed when Taiho told him about it later. "That is as close to an apology as Bora will ever give," he said. "Treasure it." Taiho smiled. "I will." Yuna came to the station for his inauguration ceremony. She hugged him tightly, then stood back to look at him. "Senior Ambassador," she said. "Our parents would be proud." Taiho felt tears prick his eyes. He had not allowed himself to think about his parents for a long time. They had died when he was young, victims of a conflict on the outer colonies. His father had been a diplomat who believed in peace. His mother had been a doctor who believed in healing. Both of them had taught him that kindness was not weakness, that the universe responded to how you treated it. He had tried to honor their memory. And now, finally, he felt like he had succeeded. "Thank you," he said to Yuna, "for everything. I am your sister. It is what I do." She grinned. "Now let us go. You have a ceremony to attend, and a queen to impress." The inauguration was held in the Great Hall where Taiho had first received Vila, the same space that had witnessed his humiliation now witnessed his triumph. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats. The Verdani elders had come personally. Allies that Taiho had made over the past year were there to support him. Even some former enemies had come to pay respects. Taiho stood at the center of the hall, wearing the formal robes of a senior ambassador. He felt strange in them. Too fancy. Too important. But when Vila walked in, everything else faded away. She was wearing Lunari traditional dress for the first time since her fall. Her silver skin gleamed. Her white hair was arranged in an elegant style. She looked like what she had always been, a queen. But she walked to Taiho's side and stopped there. Not above him. Not below him. Beside him. The council head stepped forward to conduct the ceremony. But first, Taiho raised his hand. "Before we begin," he said, "I want to introduce someone." He turned to Vila and took her hand. "Many of you know her story. You know what she lost. You know what she survived. But I want you to forget all of that for a moment." He faced the assembly. "This is Vila, my partner, my advisor, my friend. She is not a symbol of the past. She is a promise of the future. A future where we measure people by who they are, not by what they have lost." He smiled at her. "I am honored to stand beside her. And I hope this galaxy will be honored to see where we go together." He said nothing about her being a queen. Nothing about her former titles or royal blood. Just her name. But the way he said it carried more honor than any throne ever could. Vila's eyes shone with tears. But she was smiling. A real smile, bright and warm. The smile of someone who had finally come home. The ceremony continued. Words were spoken, oaths were given, hands were shaken. But none of it mattered as much as that moment. Two people standing together, refusing to be defined by the labels the galaxy had given them. A queen without a crown. A diplomat without a voice. Together. They had become something more. Later that night, They stood on the observation deck, watching the stars. They tried to shame you, Vela said softly. When they gave me to you, they wanted to bury us both, I remember. Vela turned to face him. Instead, you raised me above everyone else. You made them see what I had forgotten I was. Taiho shook his head. I did not raise you. I just refused to look down. You did the rest. Vela laughed. It was a beautiful sound, free and light. The laugh of someone who had finally set down a burden they had carried for too long. Then we raised each other, she said. Taiho smiled. Yes, I suppose we did. They stood together, watching the stars. Two failures who had become something more. Two broken pieces that had made each other whole. And the galaxy, slowly but surely, learned to see what Taiho had seen from the very beginning. That worth is not about what you have done, it is about what you choose. And Kan Taiho had chosen to see a queen, even when everyone else saw only shame. That was humanity's greatest gift. Not strength, not technology, not ambition, but the ability to see the best in others, and the stubbornness to fight for it, no matter what.